Chen stared at the hologram floating above her desk at the Terran Colonial Administration office. The Kraith Dominion seal rotated slowly, its predatory bird emblem gleaming in silver and black. She read the message 3 times, certain someone was playing an elaborate joke on her. Congratulations on your acceptance to the Kraith Survival Academy, class of 2847. The Kraith Survival Academy. Riley knew that name. Everyone in the galaxy knew that name. It was the military training facility where 60% of students died during the 3-year program. Governments sent their best warriors there, expecting most would never come home. The graduates became legendary tactical officers, feared across every civilized system. Riley processed data entry forms for colonial applications. She had applied to study library science at the Interstellar Academic Center. Somewhere in the massive bureaucracy of galactic administration, someone had made a catastrophic mistake. She should call administration immediately. Explain the error. Get her library program acceptance resent. Instead, Riley found herself reading the academy details with growing fascination. Advanced combat training across 40 hostile environments. Strategic command protocols. Survival techniques used by the galaxy's elite forces. Her finger hovered over the decline button. Then she thought about her tiny apartment, her boring desk job, the endless forms she processed every day. When would she ever get another chance like this? She could always quit if it became too dangerous. Riley hit accept before common sense could stop her. 3 weeks later, she stepped off the transport ship onto Kraith Prime. The gravity immediately tried to crush her. It was nearly 20% heavier than Earth's standard, and her knees buckled before she caught herself. Other recruits moved past her with ease, most of them towering over her small human frame. They carried massive armored containers filled with personal equipment. Riley had a single duffel bag. The landing platform stretched across a canyon carved from black volcanic stone. The academy complex rose in the distance like an ancient fortress, all sharp defensive angles and weapon emplacements. Military transports arrived and departed in perfect precision, their engines echoing off the canyon walls like thunder. Riley took a deep breath and started walking toward the processing center. A shadow fell over her. She looked up at a creature that resembled a 9-foot-tall crocodile with scorpion features. Thick chitinous plates covered its shoulders and back. Its tail curved forward over its head, tipped with a barbed stinger that dripped something greenish. "You are lost, yes?" the creature asked in a voice like grinding metal. Chen reporting for training, she said, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. The creature's 4 eyes widened. "Human? This is joke. Not according to my acceptance letter." Riley showed her confirmation code. The creature made a sound like rocks tumbling down a hill. Might have been laughter. "Follow me. Try not to die before orientation finishes." The processing center hummed with activity. Dozens of alien species moved through weapons checks and physical assessments. Most stood at least 7 feet tall. Many had natural armor, claws that could tear through steel, or teeth designed for ripping apart prey. Riley felt like a child who had wandered into a convention for apex predators. She was assigned to Squad Talon 7. Her new squad mates stared at her with expressions that clearly questioned her sanity. "This is the human?" asked one covered in sleek purple scales. She moved like liquid, every gesture precise and controlled. "Command sends us a liability?" "Perhaps she is a spy," rumbled another that looked like animated stone. Each word came out slowly, grinding against itself. "Humans are known for deception and trickery." "Or she simply wishes to die gloriously," added a third creature, insectoid with compound eyes that reflected Riley's image dozens of times. "Some species value meaningless sacrifice." The 4th squad member looked feline, though it had 6 legs and claws that extended and retracted constantly. It sniffed in Riley's direction once, then turned away as if she was beneath notice. Chen, she introduced herself, refusing to show fear. "Looking forward to working with all of you." The scaled one showed needle-sharp teeth in what definitely was not a smile. "I am Circa. You will not survive the first evaluation. I have seen many overconfident recruits. The academy breaks them all." "Grinned," said the stone creature, its voice like boulders rolling. "Vixera," clicked the insectoid. The feline remained silent, grooming one of its multiple paws with a tongue covered in tiny barbs. Before Riley could respond, every wall screen in the facility activated simultaneously. An instructor's scarred face appeared, belonging to a species Riley had never seen before. Its skin was covered in ridge patterns that might have been decorative or might have been old battle wounds. "First evaluation begins in 1 hour," the instructor announced without preamble. 72-hour survival test on hostile moon Crash 4. Temperature ranges from -60 to +40 Celsius. Atmosphere is breathable but local flora produces airborne toxins. Predatory fauna confirmed throughout all climate zones. You will receive basic survival equipment only. Extraction occurs at exactly 72 hours at designated coordinates. Recruits who fail to reach extraction will be recovered when resources and time permit. Fatalities are expected. The screens went dark. Circa turned to Riley with something that might have been pity crossing her reptilian features. Withdraw now, human. Crash 4 has killed trained warriors from a dozen species. You're an office worker, yes? You process forms and data? This is not your world. Riley thought about the camping trips she had taken on Earth. The weekend hikes through mountain ranges. The survival skills her grandfather had taught her as a child. Sure, she had never faced alien predators or toxic flora, but the basic principles should be similar. Find shelter, locate water, maintain body temperature, avoid becoming food. I have done camping before, Riley said. How different can it be? Gren's laugh sounded like an avalanche. Even Vixera's mandibles clicked in what seemed like amusement. Circa just shook her head slowly. 1 hour later, Riley stood in a dropship's cargo bay, basic survival pack strapped to her back. Through the reinforced viewport, Crash 4 grew larger. Its surface was a patchwork of purple forests and gray wastelands, with mountain ranges that looked like jagged teeth trying to bite the sky. Circa leaned close, her breath hot and smelling strongly of sulfur. When you activate your emergency beacon to quit, human, do it quickly. Retrieval teams dislike recovering bodies that predators have already begun eating. It makes the paperwork complicated. Riley checked her gear one final time. The pack contained a fire starter, basic shelter material, water purification tablets, an emergency beacon, and a blade that looked more like a letter opener than a survival tool. Not much, but she had worked with less on Earth camping trips. 60 seconds to drop zone, the pilot announced over the intercom. The cargo bay doors opened with a hydraulic hiss. Wind screamed past the opening, carrying scents of alien vegetation and something else. Something that smelled like a predator's den. Her squadmates jumped without hesitation, their forms vanishing into the purple canopy far below. Riley took a deep breath. She thought about the mistake that had brought her here, the clerical error that had changed everything. Then she smiled and stepped off the ramp into empty air. Riley hit the ground rolling, her parachute collapsing around her in the purple undergrowth. The impact jarred her bones even through the shock-absorbing suit, but she had trained for worse during her mandatory colonial safety courses. She quickly gathered the parachute material before the wind could carry it away. Waste nothing, her grandfather had always said. The forest around her was alien in every sense. The trees grew in twisted spirals, their bark a deep violet that seemed to pulse with internal light. The air tasted metallic and slightly sweet, probably from the toxins the instructor had mentioned. Riley's nose started running almost immediately, her body's natural defense against airborne irritants. She could hear her squadmates crashing through the forest in different directions, each one moving fast to establish their own territory. That was their first mistake. Speed burned energy, and energy was the most valuable resource in any survival situation. Riley moved slowly and deliberately. She found a small clearing near a rock formation that would provide wind protection. The rocks were warm to the touch, probably retaining heat from the sun that was now setting rapidly. She smiled. Perfect for a shelter. Using the parachute material and fallen branches from the spiral trees, Riley constructed a basic lean-to against the rocks. It took her 2 hours, working carefully in the fading light. She could have done it faster, but rushing led to mistakes, and mistakes led to death. Next came water. Riley listened carefully to the forest sounds, filtering out the alien noises until she heard what she needed. The soft trickle of running liquid. She followed the sound for 20 minutes, moving carefully through the undergrowth until she found a small stream. The water was clear but had a faint orange tint. She collected several containers worth and returned to her shelter. The purification tablets fizzed when she dropped them in, and she waited the recommended 30 minutes before drinking. The water tasted like metal and earth, but it was safe. Fire came next. Riley gathered dry wood, which was surprisingly abundant. The spiral trees shed their outer bark in long strips that caught flame easily. Within an hour, she had a small fire burning in a ring of stones, carefully positioned so the smoke would vent away from her shelter but the heat would radiate toward it. She settled in for the night, keeping the fire small and controlled. In the distance, she heard roaring and crashing sounds. Her squad mates were probably fighting the local predators or each other for territory. Let them waste their energy. The second day began with screaming. Riley woke to hear Vixera somewhere in the distance, the insectoid's clicks turning sharp with panic. Then silence. Riley waited, listening. After 10 minutes, she heard Vixera moving again, this time more quietly. Alive then but shaken. Riley spent the morning mapping her immediate area. She moved in careful circles, expanding outward from her shelter, memorizing landmarks and resources. She found edible fungi growing on the north side of trees, identified by their symmetrical pattern of spots. Pattern recognition was a human specialty, evolved from millions of years of gathering food. She also found tracks. Large ones pressed deep into the soft purple soil. Something big lived in this forest, something that hunted at night. Riley made careful notes of where the tracks were densest and planned her routes to avoid those areas. By midday, the temperature had climbed to 35 Celsius. Riley retreated to her shelter and rested, conserving energy. She could hear Circa in the distance, the reptilian moving constantly, searching for something. Probably food or better shelter. More wasted energy. The third day brought rain. Not water but something thicker, almost oily. It fell from purple clouds and made everything slippery. Riley had prepared for this, extending her shelter's coverage using more parachute material. She stayed dry while collecting the rain in improvised containers. After testing it with purification tablets, she found it was drinkable. Her water supply was now secured. That afternoon, she heard footsteps approaching her camp. Riley stayed still, hand on her small blade. Grend emerged from the trees, the stone creature moving slowly, its usual confident posture gone. One arm hung at an odd angle. "You are still here," Grend said, surprise evident even through its grinding voice. "Where else would I be?" Riley asked. "Most humans would have activated emergency beacon by now. The predators here are fierce. Food is scarce. The rain is toxic to many species." Riley gestured to her shelter, her fire, her water supply. "Seems manageable if you do not panic." Grend stared at her setup for a long moment. "You have fire. Fire that burns steady for 3 days. How?" "I keep feeding it small amounts of wood. Not too much, not too little. Just enough to maintain heat without creating smoke that attracts attention." "Efficient," Grend admitted. "My supplies ran out yesterday. I fought a predator for territory. I won but the cost was high." It gestured to its damaged arm. Riley considered. Helping Grend could be seen as weakness, but it could also build alliance. "There are edible fungi half a kilometer north. They grow in a specific pattern on the trees. I can show you." Grend followed her through the forest, moving more quietly now, watching how Riley stepped carefully to avoid noise and unnecessary energy expenditure. She showed the stone creature the fungi, how to identify the safe ones by their spot patterns. "You see patterns others miss," Grend observed. "Humans are very good at finding patterns. It is how we survived on our world. We looked for patterns in animal behavior, in plant growth, in weather. It kept us alive." On the fourth day, Circa appeared at Riley's camp. The reptilian looked exhausted, her scales dull instead of shiny. "The feline one activated its beacon last night," Circa reported. "Predator attack. It survived but withdrew from evaluation." "And Vixera?" Riley asked. "Moved to the canyon region. Seeking different prey." Circa paused. "I have been running for 4 days. Hunting, fighting, claiming territory as my species does. I am now exhausted and have little to show for it. You have been sitting here the entire time, yet you look rested and well fed." Riley added wood to her fire. "I have been moving, just not wastefully. I walk for a purpose, then rest. I do not run unless something is chasing me. Energy must be conserved." "This is human strategy?" Circa asked. "This is persistent strategy. On Earth, humans hunted by following prey for days, never stopping, never rushing. We did not need to be faster or stronger. We just needed to keep going after everything else had exhausted itself. We walked our prey to death." Circa sat down heavily near the fire. "That is terrifying and brilliant." "It is patient," Riley corrected. "My species learned that patience often defeats strength." On the final day, all 3 of them walked together to the extraction point. They arrived 6 hours early, rested and prepared. Other survivors stumbled in over the next hours, most looking half dead from exhaustion and injuries. When the extraction ship arrived, the instructor did a head count. Out of 40 recruits, 23 had activated emergency beacons. 4 had died. 13 survived to extraction. The instructor's eyes fixed on Riley. The human is still here. Unexpected. The human taught us patience, Gren said. The human redefined survival, Circa added. Riley just smiled and boarded the ship, already wondering what the next evaluation would bring. The combat simulation arena stretched across 2 square kilometers of artificial terrain. Riley stood with Squad Talon 7 at the starting position, studying the holographic briefing that floated in front of them. The objective was simple: capture the enemy flag and return it to base. The execution would be anything but simple. Across the arena, Squad Razor 3 waited. Riley recognized their species composition from the Academy database. 2 Kraith warriors, massive and armored with natural bone plates. 1 Zentari speed fighter, capable of moving faster than human eyes could track. 1 Torvak heavy weapons specialist, built like a tank with twice the firepower. Circa checked her plasma rifle, her scales gleaming with anticipation. Direct assault is best. We strike fast and hard before they can establish defensive positions. Gren nodded, its stone fists clenching. I will lead the charge. My body can absorb their initial fire while you flank. Vixera's compound eyes scan the terrain. Agreed. Speed and force will overwhelm them. Riley looked at her squadmates, then back at the enemy position. Or we could make them come to us. Circa hissed in confusion. That is defensive thinking. Warriors attack, not hide. Warriors also win, Riley said quietly. Attacking into a prepared position means we lose people. Maybe all of us. But if we make them think they have already won, they will become careless. The simulation timer began counting down. 30 seconds to start. Riley spoke quickly. Gren, I need you to charge their position alone. Make noise, make yourself obvious. Draw their fire. That is suicide, Gren rumbled. It would be if you were actually trying to reach them. But you are not. You are bait. When they focus on you, the rest of us circle around through the canyon pass. We take their flag while they are distracted. This is cowardly, Circa protested. There is no honor in deception. There is victory in deception, Riley countered. And victory is what the instructors are scoring, not honor. The timer hit 0. The simulation began. Gren charged forward as planned, roaring loud enough to shake the arena walls. The enemy squad immediately focused all their firepower on the stone creature. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds hammered into Gren's body, sending chips of rock flying. But Gren kept moving, kept roaring, kept their attention locked. Riley led Circa and Vixera through the canyon pass, moving quietly while the enemy was distracted. They reached the enemy base in 4 minutes. The flag sat unguarded, its defenders all focused on stopping Gren's seemingly unstoppable charge. Vixera grabbed the flag. They ran back through the canyon, emerging behind the enemy squad just as Gren finally collapsed under sustained fire. Squad Razor 3 turned to find the flag gone and 3 enemies behind them. The confusion cost them precious seconds. Riley's squad crossed the finish line with the flag before the enemy could reorganize. The instructor's voice echoed through the arena. Victory to Squad Talon 7. Time, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Casualties, 1. Enemy casualties, 0. The Razor 3 squad leader, a massive Kraith warrior, approached after the simulation ended. You did not fight. You tricked us. This is not warrior behavior. Riley met its eyes calmly. I completed the objective with minimum casualties. Fighting was optional. Winning was not. Over the following weeks, Riley introduced more concepts that baffled her opponents. During a hostage rescue simulation, she convinced the enemy guards that their own commander had ordered them to stand down. She mimicked communication patterns and used voice modulation technology in ways that had never occurred to the honor-bound alien species. In a base defense exercise, Riley did not fortify the obvious strong points. Instead, she made the strong points look abandoned and trapped the weak points. The attacking force wasted half their assault breaking through what they thought was the path of least resistance, only to find themselves in a carefully prepared kill zone. Commander Thexral, the Academy's senior tactical instructor, called Riley to his office after the 3rd week of simulations. The commander was a veteran of 40 campaigns, his body covered in scars that told stories of brutal combat. Your performance is troubling, Thexral said, his voice like gravel scraping metal. Riley stood at attention. My squad has the highest victory ratio in our class, sir. Yes. And the lowest casualty rate. And the highest enemy survival rate. Thexral leaned forward. You win without killing. You achieve objectives without direct combat. This is not how warriors are trained. Permission to speak freely, sir? Granted. Riley chose her words carefully. Humans learned warfare differently than most species. We were not the strongest or fastest on our world. We could not overpower our enemies through physical superiority, so we learned to outthink them. We learned that the battle won in the enemy's mind requires no bloodshed at all. Explain, Thexral commanded. In one Earth battle, a human general faced an army 3 times his size. He could not win through force, so he arranged his campfires to make his small army look massive. He spread rumors through captured scouts that reinforcements were arriving. He made the enemy general believe he was outnumbered. The enemy retreated without a single arrow fired. The battle was won before it began, all through managed perception. Thexral was silent for a long moment. This is psychological warfare. We have studied it in theory, but few species can execute it effectively. It requires understanding how others think and feel. Most warrior races do not develop this skill. Humans had to develop it, Riley explained. We spent millions of years as both predator and prey. We learned to read emotions, to predict behavior, to understand what others would do before they did it. We called it empathy, but it was also a survival tool and a weapon. The commander pulled up footage from Riley's recent simulations. In this exercise, you convinced an enemy soldier that his squadmates had abandoned him. He surrendered without resistance. How did you know this would work? I watched him during previous simulations. He always looked to his squadmates for confirmation before acting. He valued group cohesion over individual glory. When I made him think the group had left him behind, his primary fear was activated. Abandonment. He chose survival over mission completion because his psychological need for group belonging was compromised. Thexral watched the footage again. You are reading emotions and exploiting psychological vulnerabilities. This is a weapon we have not fully utilized. Every species has psychological patterns, Riley said. Fear, pride, loyalty, anger. These can be influenced, redirected, amplified. A warrior's mind can be a stronger weapon than their body, or it can be their greatest weakness. The commander deactivated the footage. Continue your methods. I want detailed reports on each psychological tactic you employ. The Academy Command is interested in understanding human warfare doctrine more completely. Riley saluted. Yes, sir. As she left the office, Circa was waiting in the corridor. I heard the commander was displeased with your methods. He was curious, Riley corrected. There is a difference. You fight without honor, Circa said, but there was no accusation in her tone. Just observation. I fight to win, Riley replied. Honor does not resurrect the dead. Circa's tongue flicked out, tasting the air thoughtfully. Perhaps humans understand war better than we thought. You do not glorify it. You simply end it efficiently. Riley nodded. War should end as quickly as possible. Every moment it continues, people die. If I can end it with words instead of weapons, fewer people go home in body bags. The final evaluation briefing appeared on their display screens at midnight. Riley read the mission parameters with growing concern. Squad Talon 7 was to infiltrate enemy territory, retrieve classified data from a fortified position, and extract to the recovery zone. The difficulty rating was listed as extreme. The expected casualty rate was 40%. What made Riley's stomach tighten was the enemy force composition. 3 full squads of advanced combat units, automated defense systems, aerial surveillance, and the entire operation had to be completed within 72 hours or they would fail the evaluation entirely. Circa studied the terrain maps. This is designed to test our willingness to sacrifice for the mission. Some of us will die so others can complete the objective. Gren nodded slowly. An acceptable trade. Glory in death serves the mission. Vixera's mandibles clicked in agreement. We draw lots to see who forms the suicide distraction team. Riley looked at her squadmates, seeing the resignation in their postures. They had already accepted that some of them would not survive. It was built into their warrior cultures, this acceptance of noble death. No, Riley said firmly. No. Circa turned to her. This is not a choice. The mission parameters make survival of all members mathematically impossible. The parameters assume we try to fight our way through, Riley countered. What if we do not fight at all? Then we fail, Gren stated. The objective must be taken. Taking requires combat. Riley pulled up the terrain maps and began highlighting features. Look at the timeline. We have 72 hours. The enemy expects us within the first 24 hours because that is when warrior squads attack. They will be at maximum alert, maximum preparation. Yes, Vixera agreed. Which is why speed is essential. Or, Riley said, we wait. We let them maintain maximum alert for 24 hours, then 36, then 48. We let them get tired. We let them start wondering if we are coming at all. We let their commanders reassign resources, reduce patrols, lower their guard. Circa's eyes narrowed. You want to wait 2 full days before attempting the objective? I want to let the enemy defeat themselves through exhaustion and confusion. Then we walk in when they are at their weakest, take what we need, and leave before they can organize a response. This is extreme risk, Gren rumbled. If something goes wrong in the final hours, we have no time to adapt. If something goes wrong in the first hours, we have no people left to adapt, Riley countered. I would rather gamble with time than with your lives. The squad looked at each other. Finally, Circa hissed softly. The humans' methods have not failed us yet. I will trust her strategy. They deployed into enemy territory at dawn but did not advance toward the objective. Instead, Riley led them to a cave system 3 kilometers from the target zone. The caves were cold and uncomfortable, barely large enough to fit the squad, but they provided complete concealment. Now we wait, Riley said. The first day was the hardest. They could hear enemy patrols moving through the forest above, searching for them. Aerial drones swept the area repeatedly. The enemy was at full combat readiness, expecting an assault at any moment. Riley kept the squad calm by establishing routines. Sleep shifts, quiet exercises to prevent muscle stiffness, ration meals. She told stories about human history, about battles won through patience rather than aggression. On Earth, there was a war where one army besieged a city for 10 years, Riley whispered. 10 years of waiting outside the walls. The defenders thought they were safe. But patience won. The attacking army finally found a way inside because they never gave up, never rushed, just waited for the right moment. Gren shifted in the cramped space. 10 years is unreasonable. But 3 days is not, Riley smiled. The second day brought changes. Through careful observation from the cave entrance, Riley watched the enemy patrol patterns shift. The patrols were less frequent now, the soldiers moving with less intensity. They were getting tired, getting complacent. Circa monitored enemy communications using their scanning equipment. They are questioning whether we are actually coming. Their commander is frustrated. Some units are being reassigned to other training exercises. Good, Riley said. Let them question. Doubt is a weapon. On the third day, with only 18 hours remaining, Riley finally gave the order to move. But they did not head directly for the objective. Instead, they circled wide, approaching from the direction the enemy least expected. The fortified position that had been impenetrable on day 1 was now only lightly guarded. Most of the defensive forces had been pulled back after 2 days of no contact. The soldiers who remained were exhausted from maintaining high alert for so long. Riley led her squad through a drainage system that had been overlooked in the enemy's defensive planning. It was filthy and cramped, but it brought them directly under the fortification's outer wall. They emerged inside the compound at midnight. Vixera's natural ability to move silently allowed the insectoid to scout ahead. Gren's strength opened the secured door to the data vault with minimal noise. Circa stood watch while Riley downloaded the classified information onto their portable drive. The entire infiltration took 12 minutes. They were halfway back through the drainage system when alarms finally sounded. But by then Riley's squad was already outside the fortification's perimeter, moving quickly through the forest toward the extraction zone. Enemy forces mobilized, but they were confused and disorganized. They had prepared for a frontal assault, not a stealth infiltration. Their response was slow and poorly coordinated. Riley kept the squad moving at a sustainable pace. Not running, which would tire them out, but walking quickly and deliberately. When enemy patrols got close, they hid and waited for them to pass. Riley had studied the enemy search patterns during the 2 days of observation and knew exactly where the gaps would be. They reached the extraction zone with 40 minutes to spare. The recovery shuttle landed precisely on schedule. Squad Talon 7 boarded with 0 casualties and the objective completed. The evaluation instructors were waiting when they disembarked. Commander Thexral stood with arms crossed, his expression unreadable. You waited 54 hours before making your attempt, he stated. This is highly irregular. Most squads attacked within 6 hours of deployment. Most squads failed, Riley pointed out respectfully. I checked the results board. 8 squads attempted this evaluation before us. All suffered casualties. 3 failed to complete the objective at all. And you completed it with no injuries, no combat engagement, and no detectable approach until you were already inside the target zone. Thexral pulled up the mission data. You turned the enemy's preparations into a weakness. You weaponized their expectations. I refuse to accept that casualties were inevitable, Riley said. The mission parameters assumed we would follow standard warrior doctrine. I chose to follow human doctrine instead. Circus stepped forward. The human convinced us that survival and success were not mutually exclusive. That patience could be more powerful than aggression. Grend added, she taught us that time itself can be a weapon if you understand how to use it. Commander Thexral was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Your methods are unorthodox, but the results speak clearly. Squad Talon 7 achieves the highest evaluation score in Academy history. 0 casualties. Perfect objective completion. Tactical innovation that exceeded all predictions. He looked directly at Riley. The galaxy's military doctrine may need revision. Humans fight differently than we anticipated. Riley smiled slightly. We fight to win and to go home. Both objectives matter equally. Riley was reviewing tactical simulations in the squad common room when Commander Thexral entered with 2 administrators she had never seen before. Their expressions told her everything she needed to know before they spoke a single word. Cadet Riley Chen, the first administrator said, a tall being covered in fine gray fur. We need to discuss your enrollment status. Riley's stomach dropped, but she kept her face neutral. Yes, sir. The second administrator, a being that resembled a floating cluster of crystalline structures, produced a holographic document. During a routine audit of Academy records, we discovered a significant error. Your acceptance to Kraith Survival Academy was the result of a data processing mistake. You were supposed to be enrolled in the Interstellar Library Sciences program at the Academic Center on Terra Station. I see, Riley said quietly. The gray-furred administrator continued. The error occurred when Form 3304B was cross-referenced with confirmation code 887. A single-digit transposition sent your application to the wrong processing queue. This mistake should have been caught during verification, but it was not. We are prepared to transfer you immediately to your correct program, the crystalline being added. All fees will be waived, and you will receive compensation for the time you have spent here under false enrollment. Riley looked at Commander Thexral, who remained silent, his scarred face revealing nothing. When would this transfer occur? Riley asked. Tomorrow morning. A transport is already scheduled. Your personal effects will be. The common room door burst open. Circa entered, followed immediately by Grend and Vixera. All 3 looked ready for combat. We heard, Circa hissed, her scales bristling. You cannot remove her. The gray-furred administrator bristled. This is an administrative matter. It does not concern active cadets. It concerns us completely, Grend rumbled, stepping forward. His stone body blocked the doorway. Riley Chen is our squad member. She has earned her place here. The crystalline administrator's structures rotated with agitation. She was never supposed to be here. The enrollment was a mistake. We are correcting an error, nothing more. The only error, Vixera clicked sharply, would be removing her now. Check the records. Squad Talon 7 has the highest performance ratings in our entire class. Riley is ranked in the top 15% of all cadets despite being physically weaker than nearly every other species here. Circa pulled up her data pad and projected statistics into the air. 0 casualties during final evaluation. Highest tactical innovation scores. Victory ratio of 92% in combat simulations. She has introduced psychological warfare techniques that Commander Thexral himself requested be documented for future curriculum development. The administrators looked at the data, then at each other, then at Commander Thexral. Is this accurate? The gray-furred being asked. Thexral nodded slowly. Every word. Cadet Chen has performed beyond all expectations. She has demonstrated that human cognitive capabilities provide significant tactical advantages that we had not previously understood or valued. She saved our lives, Gren stated flatly. During the final evaluation, standard warrior doctrine would have resulted in casualties. Riley's strategy resulted in 0 losses and perfect mission completion. We owe her our survival. The crystalline administrator's structures dimmed slightly. While her performance is impressive, the fact remains that she does not belong in a military academy. She is a civilian with no combat training or warrior background. She had no combat training when she arrived, Circa corrected. Now she does. She has completed the same trials as every other cadet. She has survived the same tests. She has earned the same right to be here. Riley finally spoke. May I say something? The administrators gestured for her to continue. When I received the acceptance letter, I knew it was probably a mistake, Riley said honestly. I could have declined immediately. But I chose to come here. I chose to attempt something difficult and dangerous. And yes, I have struggled. Yes, I am physically weaker than my classmates. But I have also learned more about myself in the past months than I learned in years of civilian life. She looked at her squad mates. These people have become more than teammates. They have become family. They trusted me when I had no right to expect trust. They followed strategies that went against every instinct their warrior cultures taught them. And together, we succeeded beyond what anyone thought possible. Riley turned back to the administrators. I understand I was not supposed to be here. But I am here now. And I would like to stay if that is permitted. The gray-furred administrator and the crystalline being conferred quietly in a language Riley did not recognize. Finally they turned back to the group. The situation is unprecedented, the crystalline being admitted. We have never had a cadet enrolled through clerical error who then performed at such a high level. We need to consult with Academy Command, the gray-furred administrator added. This decision is beyond our authority. They left, taking their holographic documents with them. Commander Thexrau remained. That was quite a defense your squad mounted, he said, the slightest hint of approval in his voice. They are loyal, Riley said. Loyalty matters. It does, Thexrau agreed. Wait here. I suspect you will have an answer soon. 3 hours later, Riley was summoned to the Academy Commandant's office. The Commandant was a species she had seen only in historical archives, ancient and powerful, with eyes that seemed to see through time itself. Riley Chen, the Commandant's voice resonated like deep bells. Your situation has been reviewed by the highest levels of Academy Command and by representatives from the Galactic Military Council. Riley stood at attention, preparing for disappointment. It has been decided that while your enrollment was indeed in error, your performance has been exceptional enough to warrant a unique solution. You will be offered the choice to remain at Kraith Survival Academy under a newly created program designation, Special Tactical Development. Riley's breath caught. Sir? Furthermore, the Commandant continued, the Galactic Military Council has authorized the intentional recruitment of human cadets to this academy. Your species' approach to warfare, your psychological capabilities, and your endurance-based tactics have been deemed valuable enough to warrant formal integration into our training programs. The Commandant leaned forward. If you choose to stay, you will complete your training. Upon graduation, you will be assigned as a tactical instructor, specifically to mentor incoming human recruits and to help integrate human warfare doctrine into our existing curriculum. Riley felt tears threatening but forced them back. I would be honored, sir. The choice is yours. You can return to your library science program with full compensation and no negative marks on your record. Or you can stay here and help reshape how the galaxy understands warfare. Decide carefully. Riley thought about her tiny apartment on Terra Station, her boring desk job, the endless forms she used to process. She thought about the person she had been before the mistake that changed everything. Then she thought about Circa, Grend, and Vixera. She thought about the challenges she had overcome, the strategies she had developed, the lives she had helped save. I choose to stay, Riley said firmly. This mistake gave me a purpose I did not know I needed. I will not walk away from it. The Commandant's expression might have been a smile. Then welcome officially to Kraith Survival Academy, Cadet Chen. Your enrollment is no longer in error. It is now intentional and permanent. 6 months later, Riley stood on the landing platform watching a transport ship descend. The first group of intentionally recruited human cadets was arriving. 20 young men and women who had volunteered for the galaxy's most dangerous military training program. They emerged from the ship looking nervous and excited, their eyes wide as they took in the fortress-like academy complex. Riley stepped forward to meet them, wearing the insignia of a senior cadet and tactical development specialist. Welcome to Kraith Survival Academy, she said, looking at each face. I am Riley Chen. I was the first human to attend this academy, and I am here to make sure you are not the last. The galaxy thought humans were too weak for this place. We are going to prove them wrong together. A young woman near the front raised her hand. Is it true you were sent here by accident? Riley smiled, remembering the acceptance letter that had appeared above her desk so many months ago. The clerical error sent me here. But staying was my choice. And it was the best choice I ever made. She gestured toward the academy entrance. Come on. We have a lot of work to do. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when humans decide to become warriors. And trust me, they are not prepared for what we are going to show them. The human recruits followed Riley into the academy, their footsteps echoing off the ancient stone walls. Behind them, the transport ship lifted off, leaving them to begin a journey that would change galactic military doctrine forever. The mistake had been corrected in the databases, but its consequences would reshape warfare across the galaxy for generations to come.